516.
Thank you. Now, the property we are going to speak about, we have identified as H-SI-004. Is that how you refer to the parcel, or is there a different name you'd like us to use?
This is my dad's land, and so I refer to it as the Byert land.
Okay. Thank you. Can you describe the current use of the property and any future plans?
Yes. When I acquired this land from my dad, his instructions were simple, and it was to keep it in the Byert family. And it's my honor and joy and duty to maintain and prosper from this land until I can pass it on to the next generation. My brother Larry and I farm land side by side. His land is south of mine, and he died suddenly in 2021. I actually received this first summit letter on the day I was leaving for his funeral. And I made a promise that I would continue our promise to my dad and to him to continue farming our land together, side by side with his wife, Kathy. And our intentions is to keep farming it as our father did and the ancestors before us.
Okay, so for right now, that's a corn soybean rotation, is that?
Correct.
Okay, thank you. Can you provide us a general description of the property, structures, easements, infrastructure located on it?
Yes, this is a beautiful piece of land. Its soil is rich and deep, and it's a great land to walk beans barefoot in. It does have field tile. However, I don't have a map, and without Larry here, I can't tell you detailed how it lays out. This section of land does have a trouble spot that I remember well as a child. This land has a natural slough that runs from the land north of mine, through mine, to the east under the railroad tracks and continues. Because the agreement signed with my ancestors, dated July 24, 1889, with the railroad, we cannot alter the right of way. The slough area was always a temperamental area, and if the railroad didn't maintain their right of way, it would cause crops to drown, tractors to get stuck in heavy water weed concentration. As a child, I remember watching the big equipment come in and lay the tile to make it what the compliant land that it is today. And the proposed route of pipeline is heading through that area and will absolutely destroy all that we have gained. And the pipeline will cause an unnecessary burden on my family. There are easements with the railroad, rural water, Sioux Soil Conservation District, and we do have crop insurance. I remember my dad being embarrassed and mad over the rail water, even though it was a perfect example of public good. The soil was heavily compacted and the layers were obviously messed with. And Dad was one of those that every Sunday the family would have to take the back road to church so he could see the straightness of the rows and the consistent height of each plant. And he always believed you can determine the quality of a farmer by the straightness of the rows and the crop yield. The pipeline, the field tile is an obvious benefit. You see the benefit immediately. But a pipeline that is installed with little concern to the land will alter it sometimes indefinitely. And I believe this pipeline will cause more damage to the soil, the tile, the future plants, crop yields, and to our country. And the burden will be more than the fantasies of success that the pipeline will promise. Future plans. It is my plan to continue farming this land my sister right next to me. She tried to get a testimony date and hasn't been contacted. And so she and I do feel and agree the same about this pipeline and our land. So our intention for this land is to maintain it, prosper from it, and to pass it on to our heirs, my son and her two sons.
Is there any other buried infrastructure, gas lines, water lines, telecommunication lines, other than the railroad easement?
Like I said, there's rail water.
All right.
And then we do have, the soil conservation district. So,
are there any streams or bodies of water or other noteworthy terrain features? No bodies of water.
Okay.
It doesn't appear to have timber or forest?
No, it does not.
Okay. Are there any other features or conditions that might not be readily apparent and that might affect the proposed line?
Well, specifically for me, I'm not sure which question number this is, but specifically for me, I know the pipeline will alter or destroy the tile and water flow that my dad worked so hard to correct. And with the loss of my brother, I lacked the knowledge to instantly identify the problem or know the solutions. With my family's experience with the railroad and viewing the language of Summit's easement, believing Summit and their unknown teams will do the right thing is like expecting you'll be fine to put your hand in a bucket of rattlesnakes. I am burdened that the person we contracted to plant and harvest since Larry's death will be highly concerned about the loss of yield and how that reflects on him, plus the added risk of working over a newly installed pipeline. I'm burdened with the idea that we may have to find another person to custom hire and how that will affect us financially. A pipeline that doesn't serve the public good should not be allowed to put such a financial burden on Kathy and I and affect our ability to honor our promise to my dad and brother. When you bury a septic tank or a horse or a grave, it's a given expectation that you will have settling or sinkholes, and a wise person will put more than enough dirt on it and allow it to settle. I don't believe that you can prevent settling without causing compaction, and this pipeline uses no common sense or logic, only hypothetical words of possibilities. The pipeline is in the back of my 45 acres, and I'm burdened by the concern that impactions and ruts and leaking fuel will happen from the heavy equipment. The only access point is across my land from the gravel road or from the right-of-way. My family has a great working relationship with the railroad, and I do not want to change that relationship by ignoring their agreement. The right-of-way between the farmland and the track is not a public access, and I own the land in that right-of-way. I am burdened that Summit, having no authority to traverse the railroad right-of-way, will take full advantage of benefiting and hijacking my land. How much of my crop, if not all, will be destroyed or prevented from being planted or harvested because Summit will decide to drive back and forth across my land. I stress over the questions of if they're going to have the right to egress my 45 acres, who pays for the seed already in the ground that will never produce? Will I have time to replant? Who will buy that seed? What if we have a wet season and it's finally dry enough to harvest and Summit decides to come in and start construction? Do I get to harvest first? When construction begins, it's easy to assume the entire piece of my land would be blocked from my ability to plant or maintain my crop. I believe at the very least, the entire 45 acres must be compensated for total crop loss and damage until I, the landowner, agree the crop yield has returned to pre-pipeline yields and the tiles show no damage. When I think I'm probably on question 3. Some of it is only speculation until they actually prove their claims of success and safety. And so I was trying to figure out how I'm affected. So I researched the U.S. DOT Federal Railroad Hazardous Materials Compliance Manual to see what they demand of a railroad that transports hazardous materials, and it added more concerns to my list. 2.2, scope of regulatory authority states a hazardous material shipment that is not prepared in accordance with the requirements of the hazardous material regulations may not be offered for transportation or transported by air, highway, railroad, or water. What is DOT's thought on adding land to that list? It continues, as such, the regulations impose regulatory requirements on persons who perform